My husband returned home alone, without our 6-year-old son after he kicked him out of the car in the middle of nowhere to teach him a lesson.
The child was gone. I didn't shout. I acted.
2 weeks later, my husband was the one screaming.
And you know what? I never even raised my voice. See, I'm the practical one. Always have been.
Work, deadlines, schedules down to the minute. Groceries stocked, bills paid, appointments made. Husband, kid, mortgage, fridge, everything in its place. If something broke, I didn't fall apart.
I fixed it.
There was no room for panic in my system. Until the day my husband came home, without our son. Because, apparently, he just wanted to teach him a lesson. And the life I'd kept so carefully held together?
It cracked. Let me back up. I'm Jenna.
34, based in Iowa, and I work for a company that flips houses.
I actually love my job.
I like before and afters, I like checklists, I like structure.
I have a son, Toby. He's 6.
Kind-hearted, curious, and hilarious without even trying. And he used to have a father. Technically still does, on paper.
His name is Mark. Mark never hit Toby.
He didn't scream at him. Didn't grab him or throw toys.
No, Mark parented. That was his word.
You don't get it, Jen. A boy needs discipline. He needs to be strong, not some little crybaby.
And I worked. I was tired.
And deep down, I wanted to believe someone else had it handled.
So yeah, I let it happen. It was a Saturday.
I was working from home, deadline, contractors, material estimates. Mark offered to take Toby to a trampoline park so I could focus. That alone should have raised a flag. Mark never offered to do anything solo with Toby. Usually it was I've got stuff or I'm slammed today. But that morning, he was practically patting himself on the back.
We'll be back by lunchtime. Don't worry.
I'm not worried, I said.
And I wasn't. Not then.
3 hours later, Mark came home.
Alone.
I was at my laptop with headphones on when he walked in.
He looked normal. Which was weird. But something was off.
Like he was holding his breath inside his own skin.
Where's Toby? I asked. So okay.
He scratched the back of his head. Classic Mark telling a lie body language. I've lived with him long enough to read the whole novel in one gesture. Did he stay over at someone's place?
I took my headphones off. No, he's not here right now. Mark, where is our son?
He stared at me like I'd just lit a fuse under him.
He ran off.
What do you mean he ran off?
I pulled over for a second. He got out. I drove away.
And when I came back, he was gone.
I just stood there, silent.
You left him?
Not like that. It was a stop.
I told him to get out and think for a minute. He spilled water in the car and started whining, and I said, take a break. Think it over.
It was 20 minutes. Maybe 25.
You thought it was okay to leave a 6-year-old alone on the side of the road?
Jen. You didn't call me. I thought I'd find him. I drove back and forth. Looked for him. But then. Then what?
Then I called the cops. They said no kid had been reported. I was already dialing 911. We went to the spot together. Mark pointed, like it mattered.
Right here.
He was standing here. Then he wasn't. I figured he maybe walked off toward a store.
There's no store.
Okay, field then.
He shut up.
There wasn't even a bench there.
No shelter.
Just a cracked concrete slab and a rusted signpost with a faded label.
Overgrown brush. No people. No cars. Just empty.
And I stood there, staring at it all.
6 years. 6.
The child I carried for 9 months. Nursed, rocked to sleep, walked into preschool with his little backpack. Left standing here. Because he spilled water. And because his dad thought it would teach him a lesson. I wouldn't say I fell in love at first sight. Mark was convenient, reliable, structured. The human equivalent of a color-coded spreadsheet. Sex on the kitchen counter type of guy? Not really. He was more scheduled intimacy, third Thursday of the month. We met at a friend's party. He offered to drive me home, no flirting, no charm, just, "You're from the South, right? I hear the accent. I'm from there too. Wanna ride together?" And then he asked me out. And then again. And then, "You're practical. I respect that. Let's skip the drama, move in with me." And like an idiot I thought, finally, someone who doesn't lie. At first, it worked. We both had our jobs. I was doing small interior redesigns around the city. He worked in logistics, warehouses, shipping, endless phone calls with people he barely tolerated. But the pay was good, and we got by just fine. He wasn't warm. Not charming, not nurturing, not fun. He was functional. Checklists. Meal prep. Morning gym. He saw wife as an extension of his own efficiency. Not in a creepy, controlling way, just, "We're a team." Back then, I thought that was a compliment. When Toby was born, we were both ready, whatever that means. Well, I was. Mark said, "I'm not great with kids, but you'll handle it. You're strong." Which is code for, "This is on you." He showed up at the hospital on day 3 with a bottle of stretch mark cream and said, "I figured you could use this." I was too exhausted to throw it at his head. Toby's first 2 years were basically me and the grandmas. Mark stuck to his 3 pillars: work, fitness, and budget spreadsheets. But then he got laid off. New manager. Budget cuts. He called him a soy-faced clown, which I assume meant someone didn't kiss his ass enough. Mark was furious but pretended he was above it. Like it was his choice to leave. For a month, he just loitered around the house. And then one morning he announced, "It's time I stepped up with Toby. Before it's too late." And like a hopeful idiot, I was thrilled. He's finally showing up. He wants to be a dad. Cue laugh track. At first, it was sweet. He started waking Toby up in the mornings. They'd stretch together. Breakfast was steel-cut oats, no sugar. Orange juice, no pulp, because pulp, quote, corrupts the mouthfeel. He bought dinosaur books and explained the difference between herbivores and carnivores. Toby was over the moon. I remember thinking, maybe we're okay after all. That didn't last. Then came the rules. Toby had to wake up at exactly 6:45. Not 6:40. Not 6:50. 6:45. If he overslept, no cartoons that day. If he said he was tired, penalty exercise, make the bed 10 times in a row. Dinner? At the table, back straight, no talking. It's discipline training, Mark said. A boy should be able to eat in silence. I tried pushing back. Don't you think that's a little much? You're just too soft. He'll grow up weak if we don't toughen him now. He's 4. Perfect age to start. One day I came home early and saw this. Toby, standing in the corner, facing the wall. Mark, lounging on the couch, scrolling his phone. What's going on? He talked during dinner. So now he's got 20 minutes in the corner. Why 20? 1 minute for every outrageous act of disrespect. I didn't say anything. I made tea. But something inside me tightened. Still, I was the practical one. I didn't start fights. Every week, Mark added something new. Today's character building, Toby stands in the hallway alone for 5 minutes. Teaches independence. Today's impulse control, no toy until he sorts every piece of Lego by color. Today's patience, cold broccoli. He doesn't get up until he finishes. Because life isn't always warm. When I argued, he'd say, "Do you want him to be a whiny little snowflake? I want him to be a normal kid." Mark would roll his eyes. Women have no tolerance for real discipline. That's when I first had the urge to slap him. But I didn't. Because Toby. Because I thought it was better to be a calm mom than a dramatic one. Right? One winter, when Toby was 5, Mark decided it was time to teach him how to sled. He pulled the old sled out of the garage, bundled Toby into his snowsuit, and said, "We're going to the school hill. He's not a baby anymore. Time to learn." I nodded. Dad and son. Snow. Sledding. Memories. Cute, right? Yeah, no. About 20 minutes later, I grabbed my coat and went to check on them. I hadn't even reached the hill when I heard Mark yelling, his voice echoing like he was trying to train a military recruit. "Carry it yourself. It's your sled, so you carry it." I turned the corner and saw Toby dragging it behind him, tripping through the snow. His cheeks were bright red, hands stiff and raw, his breath short and panicked. "I'm tired." "Tired? What are you, a little girl? Pull it like a man." "Daddy." I said move. I started walking faster. The sled was huge. Way too heavy for a 5-year-old. I grabbed it without saying a word. Mark muttered, "I've got this." "Not anymore," I said. "This is me handling it now." "You're ruining everything again." "No. I'm just not letting you make our kid cry over a sled." I dragged the thing up the hill a few times, and Toby finally got to ride down. He laughed. Like, really laughed. Cheeks flushed from joy this time, not from yelling. Mark stood off to the side, arms crossed, sulking like a toddler who lost his turn on the swing set. I ignored him completely. After a few runs, I gave Toby a big hug, and we headed home. Mark trailed behind us grumbling about how I was sabotaging his parenting. At home, I made Toby hot cocoa. Then poured myself a large glass of red and told Mark, "Next time, try thinking before you start barking like a drill sergeant." He snorted. "You're raising a wimp. And you're acting like a cartoon villain." I wasn't yelling. I just said it flat. Cold. Like a line you don't cross. Because it wasn't sudden, you know? Mark didn't just wake up one day and turn into this controlling caricature. It was slow. Little things. He started losing his grip on everything else, so he clung to control. Control over Toby. Over me. Over something. And me? Sometimes I pushed back. Sometimes I didn't. I was tired. I had work. Bills. Grocery lists. Clients. Dinners. I told myself he meant well. That this was just his awkward version of fatherhood. That if I pushed too hard, I'd be the unstable one. The emotional one. And over time, I stopped trusting my own gut. Started doubting myself. Until that Saturday. Until the spilled water. Until the empty road. Until the moment my husband left our child on the side of the highway to teach him a lesson. "He was standing right here," Mark kept saying. "Right here." I stared at the faded, crooked bus stop sign and thought, "Right here. This is where you dumped our kid. Like a garbage bag. Because he spilled water." Mark paced in circles, acting shocked. He could have walked to the highway, or gone the wrong way. I didn't think he'd actually leave. He always listens. When the police arrived, Mark ran up to them like he was filing a battlefield report. Very calm. Very serious. Basically a retired officer in civilian clothes. "I left him for just a minute," he said. "He stepped out to get some air. I thought he was still there. When I got back, he was gone. I started looking immediately, figure he might have walked down the road." He kept emphasizing the word looking. As if that erased the rest of it. "Did you ask him to get out of the vehicle voluntarily?" one officer asked. "Well, not exactly. I suggested he take a minute to cool off. He was upset." "Why was he upset?" "He spilled water in the car. Got emotional because I was frustrated." I didn't yell. "Sure, Mark. You don't have to raise your voice to sound like a fire alarm." I cut in. He didn't just step out. He was left. Alone. On a rural roadside. At 6 years old. I tried not to cry. Tried to keep the venom out of my voice. We gave them photos. Eventually, Mark admitted that yes, he'd already reported it, but he hadn't told dispatch the location, the car make, or that our son had been left. He just said, "A child is missing." Because God forbid he look like the idiot he actually is. One of the officers stared at him for a long moment and said, "Next time, try full disclosure if you actually want help."
1 hour passed. Then 2.
Mark was pacing, hovering, offering to go over it again, like he was part of the investigation.
I said nothing.
I sat on the hood of our car and stared at my phone like I could will my son to appear on the screen. After 2.5 hours, I got the call. A man driving on the highway spotted a child walking alone on the shoulder.
No coat. No adults. Crying.
Holding an empty water bottle. The man pulled over and brought him to the nearest police station.
Toby didn't give his name. Didn't give his address. All he kept saying was, "I'm bad. I made a mess on the seat."
The officers didn't know what to make of him.
He was clean. No bruises, no cuts, no note. Just a lost little boy. They circulated the photo. Someone in our district recognized him. And they called me.
By the time we arrived, Toby was sitting in the juvenile room on a plastic chair.
Feet dangling. Bottle clutched in his hand. He looked up when I came in. "Mom." I dropped to my knees beside him. He didn't cry.
But his body curled in on itself like he expected me to walk away too.
"You're good, baby."
"You're not bad," I whispered, brushing his hair back.
He wrapped his tiny arms around my neck. Held on tight. And didn't let go. Mark stood in the doorway. I didn't even look at him. In the car, he tried to talk. I didn't know he wouldn't say his name. He always talks.
"This isn't about me, this is about him."
"No, Mark. This is about you.
You left a 6-year-old by the road like trash.
And now he thinks he deserved it. It was a mistake." "No. It was a pattern."
"A mistake is a one-time thing. You did this to him every day for a year."
He went quiet. Then asked, "So what now? You gonna press charges?" I looked out the window.
"I want you to stay the hell away from us." The next morning, I went to a lawyer.
No drama. No back and forth. I walked in and said, "I need a restraining order. And full custody."
The child psychologist worked in the same building.
We booked the appointment right away. Toby didn't resist.
For the first time in 2 days, he made eye contact.
That night, Mark texted, "Are you seriously dragging this to court? This was just parenting." I overreacted. "It's not a crime. You're turning him against me. You destroyed this family. I'll file for custody too. You left me no choice." I replied with one line, "Go ahead. I've got nothing to hide. But you do."
2 weeks later, we had our first hearing.
The judge read the police report, read the psychologist's notes, looked at Mark,
and issued a temporary no-contact order.
Until the full custody hearing.
Mark stormed out of the courthouse yelling,
"You and him ruined my life." "No," I said quietly. "You did that all by yourself." He kept shouting. I got in the car, started the engine, and drove away. That night, Toby asked, "Is Daddy going to live with us?" "No." "Will he yell anymore?" "No." He nodded. "Can I sleep with you tonight?"
We lay there in silence. His little body curled against mine.
And all I could think was, how did I let it go this far? The answer was simple. Because I was afraid.
Afraid of being called hysterical.
Afraid I was wrong.
Afraid he was right, and I was just too soft.
But now I know. Soft doesn't mean weak.
And when it comes to protecting my son,
I can be harder than steel.
When the school calls you in the middle of the day, your heart always drops a little.
Even if you know your kid's okay. Even if it's happened 100 times. You still freeze.
But this time, I knew something was off. Toby hadn't just been quiet lately. He'd started flinching in his sleep again. And I knew exactly where that was coming from. A few months after everything happened, the court granted Mark's supervised visitation. Only with a specialist present. Only on neutral ground.
I hesitated.
But my lawyer warned me, refusing could look like sabotage.
So we tried.
At the first visit, Toby clung to me until the very last second. Then clenched his jaw and walked into the room where Mark was waiting.
There were cameras. A caseworker. Everything by the book.
He came out 8 minutes later.
"I don't want to do that again," he said quietly. He called me weak. Said I don't know how to be a man.
Second visit, Mark brought a gift, an army-style water bottle and a book titled How to Be Strong. He said if I become a real man, he'll take me back, Toby muttered, staring at the floor.
But I don't want to be a man. I just want to be me.
After the third visit, Toby didn't sleep at all. I laid next to him while he trembled. "Mama," he whispered, "is Daddy gonna take me again?"
I filed to terminate the visits. The court reviewed it.
And that's when the real pressure started.
First, Mark's dad called me. Calm, almost friendly. "Jenna, come on. Boys need fathers. You're being irrational, trying to cut him out like this." Next day, Mark's mom. "We raised Mark. We know what's best. You filled that boy's head with garbage. You're raising a soft little crybaby." I didn't answer. I recorded everything. Then Mark showed up at Toby's school. No permission. No heads up. He cornered him during recess. Sat beside him. Started whispering. Toby turned pale. Dropped his backpack. Ran straight to the nurse's office and locked the door. I got there 20 minutes later. He was shaking. Wouldn't talk. Just held on to me and wouldn't let go. That night, I found a crumpled piece of paper in his backpack. It was a note from Mark. Sloppy handwriting, written like a threat in a kid's movie. "You don't get to ruin everything, Toby. You have to listen to your father. Your mom's making you weak. I know you miss me. If you want me back, you need to be better. Stop acting like a mama's boy. Don't let me down again." I took it straight to my attorney. The next day, we filed an emergency motion. The judge reviewed it that same day. A full restraining order was granted. Not just for Mark, but for his parents too. The court ordered psychological evaluations for the entire family. Toby's therapist submitted a report stating the father's family was triggering anxiety and trauma responses. That was enough. And for the first time in months, I exhaled. I stopped thinking of myself as just a mom. I was a shield. Almost a year has passed. Toby smiles again. He draws comics. The other day he asked me, "Mom, Daddy can't come anymore, right?" "No, sweetheart. He can't." He nodded. That was it. No more questions. We go on walks now. The sun's out. He hops along beside me, holding my hand. As for Mark, he's crashing at his brother's place. Lost his job. He's on the restricted guardianship list for the state. His parents? Same deal. No contact. Sometimes I still see his posts online. Rants about traitors, women who destroy men, a stolen child. But it doesn't matter anymore. For a long time, I thought I was protecting a family. Turns out, I was just staying quiet. I don't stay quiet anymore. Not for anyone. Now I want to ask you, what would you have done in my place? Do you think I went too far? Or not far enough? Tell me in the comments. And if stories like this matter to you, hit that subscribe button. We've got more to talk about.